son's taxes.
See,
That was
that's
nice.
nice. My husband does ours, but I get to do my mom's.
Okay, just starting to stream this out on our YouTube channel as well. I just need to make sure it doesn't start making a noise at me, which it sometimes does.
Hey guys, please remember that we're not answering questions in the chat window. Please go to the Q&A section to put your questions. And if you can, and you missed Alan's first drive through of this direction, please upvote other people's questions if you see that yours is already represented there. That way they float to the top. And what frequently is happening is that we're getting upwards of 150 questions before we even start answering the question portion. So it makes it really hard for us to wade through them all. We want to answer as many of them as possible.
Yeah, and please make sure you stick with full sentences. That way we can make head or tail of what you've asked and give our best chance of giving you an answer. Okay, I'm seeing 10:31. We're recording it. We're going out on YouTube. So Scott, why don't you kick off?
All right, cool. Hey, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Scott Rogowski. I'm the director of the NorCal SBDC Finance Center for the Northern California SBDC Small Business Development Center Network. I'm accompanied by Alan Montague. He's the gentleman that's helping us put this webinar on and kind of run it together. And then also we have our associate director for the Northern California region, Ann Johnson Stromsberg, on the phone as well. And then my assistant director, Sunita Maharaj, from the Finance Center. And as you can see, this is our COVID-19 small business updates around lending. And we're all in this together. So we're Northern California SBDC. We're supported by the SBA, Small Business Administration, on the federal side, State of California, which is the Governor's Office of Economic Development, called GoBiz. We're also partially funded by the state and the feds. We offer no-cost one-on-one advising to small businesses. We usually work with small businesses for like startups and growth, but for this time right now and for this webinar, we are helping businesses through this disaster time to help you qualify for lending, help you possibly reopen your place of business, rehire employees. So that's what we're offering now at no cost. And we're bringing this to you from Northern California SBDC Network and the Finance Center, which is it's a part of Northern California that specializes in working with business owners like yourself all around accessing capital. And we're going to go over that today. So quick disclaimer, this disclaimer keeps, for those of you that have been on multiple webinars with us, this disclaimer keeps getting larger and larger because there's a lot of reiterations of information that we just want to tell you over and over and over again, so you're aware of it. So things are changing all the time. This information was correct when we put it together, but things are changing all the time. And fortunately or unfortunately, sometimes things change as we're giving webinars. So what we delivered Monday, 2 days ago, there's a few things in there that have changed to today or right after we did the presentation. So we appreciate your patience as we work through this and we get this updated information from the SBA and the feds and the state of California. I do want to let you know, don't hesitate to apply either for the EIDL, which we'll go over, or the Triple P. We work with a lot of, in Northern California, we have a group called Tech Futures Group. They work with a lot of businesses that are set up with a bunch of investors involved in their business. So if you are a business owner that owns a business, whether it be tech or not tech related, and you have a lot of investors in your ownership structure, please reach out to them before you apply for these loans, because they may or may not want you to move forward with that. So there's a little disclaimer there. But if you don't have a lot of investors and it's just like 1 to 4 people that own your company, maybe 5, please don't hesitate to apply regardless of what you hear in the news or regardless if you think you're going to qualify or disqualify. Please apply. All right, and then this is something else that's been coming up over and over again. Unfortunately, there's no way that we can check the status of your submitted SBA EIDL loan, which we're going to talk about. EIDL is Economic Injury Disaster Loan. It's the SBA direct loan. So we just need you to be patient, and we're going to help you apply for other loans as you're waiting. And we apologize that there's no way to check the status on that. All right, so what's available? The types of loans that you can get today are the SBA Direct. That's money coming directly from SBA to your bank account. They wire the money to you once you're approved and you sign all the docs. That there's no lender involved. It's straight from SBA. SBA stands for Small Business Administration. EIDL, so there's an Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and there's also an Advance. To apply for both, you just go to this website, covid19relief.sba.gov /# That's where you go to apply. And it's a Google form, and you have to go through about 4 or 5 pages. On the 4th page is the question about the advance. Do you want to apply for the advance? We're going to go over what that means, but this is the website. Hasn't changed. This is the most recent website. If you applied before March 29th on a different website or a different form, then you need to reapply. If you've not heard back from SBA, if you're approved or declined, or if they need more stuff from you. If you applied before March 29th, you need to reapply if you haven't heard anything, any communication. So then there's the SBA supported loan, meaning they guarantee the loan. And that's the PPP, the Payment Protection Program. And those are loans from everyday 7A lenders. 7A is the product code underneath the loan section within SBA. So it's called a 7A. The PPP is under the 7A program. Most preferred lenders offer this loan, most preferred SBA lenders. Currently, as of yesterday, there's been 593 national lenders that have signed up to do these SBA loans that we're currently not doing SBA 7A loans. Nationally, there's about a little over 4,600 SBA lenders offering these PPP loans across the country. In the state of California, there's certain things supported through the state of California, as there are in other states. There's a sales tax deferment, which we'll go over a little bit later. And there's also this iBank microloans. Then there's also an SBA Bridge Express loan that came out in 2017 in case of disaster, which we are obviously experiencing a disaster, where it says that preferred lenders, SBA lenders, can offer a quick $25,000 to small businesses that are in a disaster situation. Unfortunately, at this time, we have not had any lenders announce that they are offering these funds, but we are looking daily and trying to get updated on that. And then there's current SBA loan support. So for any new loans that you get today, going forward until further notice, SBA will pay the principal and interest payments for these loans for the first 6 months, which is really awesome. They're not deferring it. They're just going to make those payments for you. All right, so the EIDL, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and this is an SBA direct loan. The terms are 30 years for everyone. Nobody's going to get under 30 years. It's all 30 years. There's 3.75% for 30. There's 11 deferment. So your first payment is not due until the 12th month. I don't have it on the slide, but none of this loan is forgiven. The EIDL loan that you get from SBA is not forgiven. The advance is, which we'll go over shortly after this slide, but the EIDL loan is not forgiven, none of it. But it's a great rate, great terms. The loan amount is a range depending on what SBA feels you need when they look at your operating expenses and your working capital. We have not received clear communication if that's 2 months of working capital or 6 months worth of working capital that they're going to approve you for. But it's somewhere around there. And the loan amounts are as low as $5,000 and potentially up to $2 million total aggregate. If you own multiple companies, you can't get $2 million per company. It's up to $2 million for multiple companies you own. The time frame, best case scenario, it could be about 25 to 35 days. We're seeing about 3 to 4 weeks from the time that you apply to the time that you get a case manager. And once you get a case manager, it could take another week or 2 to get the money. other documents possibly needed that the SBDCs can help you fill out are the SBA direct forms. So if you applied before the 29th, these forms were online and you were able to drag and drop them and put them in a box, like Dropbox. But now, after March 29th, there is no Dropbox. It's just this Google form. You go online and apply with the link I gave you in the previous slide. Alan will send these slides out to you. These forms do not pop up, but they may or may not be asked for. So what we are doing at the SBDC, at the Finance Center, and through our region is we're helping you fill out these forms. We have access to them. We'll give them to you. We'll help you fill them out if you need help. And that way you can prepare and have them ready when SBA may ask for them. Usually anything over $25,000, they're going to ask for these loans. Eligibility, pretty much everyone, except for industries that are not federally approved, like gambling. If a third or more of your income comes from gambling, then you're not approved. If it's under a third, you can get approved. If there's no risque businesses, no cannabis, none of that. Hemp can't be over a third of your revenue, and if it is, then you don't qualify. But if it's under a third, you do qualify. There's all these nuances, but what's
actually for hemp, it's hemp is okay. Just CBD is if it's hemp derived.
Okay. Thanks, Ann. So the other thing that's eligible is pretty much anybody that has a sole proprietor or is an independent contractor, some sort of 1099. That could be Airbnb, it could be Uber, it could be Lyft, it could be a hairstylist, it could be a real estate agent. People that don't normally qualify for SBA 7A loans do qualify for the EIDL. It could be a passive income real estate investor that owns a commercial property and has tenants. They qualify as well. And then nonprofits qualify up to 750 employees, all 501c3s. We have not received word on a 501c6 yet, 501c6. We're waiting for it, but we haven't heard that yet. Faith-based organizations that are 501c3s, those also approved. The nonprofit does not have to have a business purpose to be approved for the EIDL loan. All businesses, all for-profits, cooperatives, ESOPs can only go up to 500 employees. Nonprofits can go up to 750 employees. That's the EIDLs. That's the EIDL loan. The EIDL Advance, when you go through the EIDL application, the EIDL Advance is also in the same application. So if you apply for the regular loan, you can also click the Advance that you'd like to take advantage of the Advance. The Advance is up to $10,000. So if you have 10 or more employees, you qualify for $10,000. If you are a sole proprietor or an independent contractor, you only qualify for $1,000 unless you have people in your payroll, which you probably wouldn't have because you're a 1099 contractor. If you have 3 employees, you get $3,000. So that's how it is. $1,000 for every employee that you have within your company. 10 or more, you get $10,000. We're hearing that it takes about 2-3 weeks from the time that you apply to the time that you get the money for this advance. So this started, I think this started at the end of March. So we're about 2 weeks in, a little over 2 weeks. So people are starting to get some of these advances wired into their business bank accounts. So this advance is fully forgiven, regardless if you get approved or declined for the EIDL loan. The advance is fully forgiven. The EIDL loan is not forgiven. No part of the EIDL loan is forgiven. All right, the triple P. I call it the triple P because it's a lot easier to say than the payment protection program. But you can call it what you want, but it's a payment protection program. All right, so again, this is money from lenders, everyday lenders, 7A lenders. Your business bank might be this lender, and they may not, and we have options for that too as well. I'll get into that a little bit later. So the triple P, the terms are a lot different from the EIDL, as you can see. It's not 30 years, it's 2 years. It's not 3.5%, it's 1%. And the deferment on the payments are 6 months instead of 11 months. So this is the triple P. The max, you can see, it's 5 times the max on the EIDL. It's $10 million max. And unlike the EIDL, there's no personal guarantee for the payment protection. There's no collateral for the payment protection. And there's no credit elsewhere for the payment protection. There's 0 of those things for this program. But for the EIDL, you do need a personal guarantee. You potentially may need some collateral. All right, so additional paperwork, just like the EIDL, there's additional paperwork. For the triple P, there's some additional paperwork that you need to get together. For a sole proprietor, which sole proprietors and independent contractors were allowed to apply for the Triple P on the 10th, on Friday. This last Friday was when they opened it up to sole proprietors. You're going to get all your 1099s, unless if you just have one, great for you. But if you have multiple 1099s, you have to get all this together for 2019, and that's part of the paperwork that you're going to have to submit to the lender when you apply. Also, for any other entity outside of a sole proprietor, you're gonna have to get together all your W-2s and all your 941s or 940s, which are your quarterly payroll reports for 2019. You have to get all those together before you apply, because that's how they're gonna verify your payroll. The other thing that's not on here, and I apologize, is there's a universal application that the SBDCs have access to. You can also go to the U.S. Treasury and find it. But we at the Finance Center and throughout Northern California region, we have access to the Triple P application, which is a universal application that you would essentially fill out by yourself, then take to a lender, and then have to fill out all their other forms that they need you to fill out. But it's a fairly simple application to fill out. It's only 2 pages. And then, so what can the money be used for? So on the EIDL, it's pretty much all working capital. But on the EIDL loan, there's no spot on the application where you can put how much you want. They just ask for your total sales and your total cost of goods. And when you minus sales and cost of goods, you get operating expenses. And with the operating expenses, that is your working capital, so they can kind of figure out how much they want to qualify you for. On the Triple P, there's specific amounts of things that you can actually apply for. It's payroll costs, which includes everything in this parentheses: costs related to continuation of group healthcare benefits. Doesn't say it in here, but workman's comp insurance and then benefits during paid sick, medical, family leave related to insurance premiums, employee salaries, commissions, or similar compensations. So that's payroll costs in a nutshell, everything within payroll costs. And then if you wanted to, you could also include your rent monthly payments, your utilities monthly payments, and your interest debt monthly payments. And you take your monthly cost of all your payroll costs, your rent, your utilities, and your interest debt, you add that up for a month, and then you times it by 2.5, and that's what you qualify for the Triple P at this current time. Yeah. And then I forgot to mention, you can apply for both. You can apply for both at the same time. You can apply for the Triple P and the EIDL at the same time. You just can't use the money for the same purposes. And if you're trying to figure out what that means, just means you can't use the EIDL for payroll and also use a Triple P for payroll. You can't use the EIDL for rent and also use a Triple P for rent. So it's on a good faith with the lenders and SBA. And they obviously are going to trust you on that. But if you're trying to figure out what to apply for and how much not to apply for and where to spend the money, you can reach out to the SBDC. We can help you with that. All right. So this is an ever-changing slide right here. I just updated this actually this morning. So if your bank is at capacity, your business bank is at capacity, and they can't take any more Triple P applications because they've already taken 250,000 and they don't have any more people to process all the paperwork that's coming in. That's the bank called B of A. They got 250,000 applications and kind of had to shut it down for a little bit. So with that, the Triple P, if your business bank is at capacity or they just don't offer SBA 7A loans for whatever reason. They just don't. They can actually sign up to be a 7A lender with SBA. Like I mentioned, we have another 600 that just signed up over the last couple of weeks across the nation. Or you could go to a business bank or a lending bank that is offering non-customer Triple P loans. First of all, if you want to, you could go to sba.gov, paycheck protection /find, enter your zip code, and potentially find lenders. I've been told that this system really only brings up the big banks, and if you're not a customer, then they're not going to help you. But there are some lenders that can help you that are not banks. And if you want to know the best way to approach them, you can email us at loans@asksbdc.com. I don't recommend that you as an individual business owner just go knock on all the doors of these banks. You can if you want. I recommend that you meet with your local SBDC advisor, and they can help you walk through this, because it's important that you have all your documents and you apply so that they can get back to you quicker and possibly fund you faster. So lendistry.com They're on their website. If you click on Triple P, it tells you all the financials that you're going to need. And then you guys can obviously read this here. There's some banks here. I don't even know where they're located, but they were on this sheet that I looked at this morning. Oddly enough, T-Bank is out of Texas, but they lend nationally, and they're a great SBA lender. Ready Capital is a good lender that we work with. And then some of these other ones on here, I've never actually worked with them, but they're on the list to offer business loans to non-customers, which is really awesome. So we can answer more at that email that you see there. So the California Small Business Support. All right. So State of California, specific to California, there's this thing called California iBank. It's been around, I'm not sure how many years it's been around, maybe 10, 20 years. iBank is called Industrial Bank. It's under the office of the Economic Development Office of GoBiz, called GoBiz under the governor's office. So sorry, iBank is under the Economic Development Department of the governor's office called GoBiz. It's like really like a huge mouthful. That's where it's hiding. I like to call it Invisible Bank because it's not an actual bank. You can't actually like go talk to people there. So that's what iBank is. Governor Newsom launched a $50 million loan fund announcement a week or two ago to offer these $50,000 loans, microloans. And they're working with some CDFIs, which is a Certified Development Financial Institution in the state of California. Throughout the state, there's like 5 of them that they're working with. This program actually launches April 17th. I've been talking about it since last week because I thought that the matrix was going to come out sooner than it did as far as how to qualify for these loans. But what we're doing at the SBDC Finance Center is we're at this website or this email. You could email us and we can help you get your financials together and then help you find a lender once it launches this Friday. Also, there's a disaster state guarantee loan program, and that's under iBank. So iBank is the state, SBA are the feds. So there's federal guarantees like the Triple P, and then there's state guarantees like iBank. And they work with financial development corporations. I know it's a lot of jargon, but we also have answers for this as well. There's a FDC in Northern California and Oakland called NorCal FDC. They're working with about 20 different lenders that offer this loan program. So this is a disaster state loan program. It is not forgiven. It's a loan up to $1 million at a 95% guarantee from iBank. This is monies that would come from everyday lenders that you work with or possibly bank with. And this loan, depending on the lender, the rates could be as low as 4.25. They could be as high as 5.25, and they could be up to 30 years terms, and with a 6 to 12 month deferment of interest payments. If you have questions about that, you can also email us, and then we'll just get you right to NorCal FDC in Oakland or California Capital FDC in Sacramento, depending on where you are in our region. In the state of California, there's a sales tax deferral that is allowing businesses to defer payments of sales and use tax up to $50,000 or up to 12 months. And this is my last slide. So appreciate, this is a little bit of a longer conversation than we normally do on this webinar, but there's been some new updated information, as you can see. So if you're looking for other loans, so the EIDL loan doesn't necessarily ask you for any of this stuff on this PowerPoint or this slide, because it's all done internal. And SBA is making their decisions as they go. They're not necessarily asking you for all this paperwork. And then the Triple P, they may or may not be asking you for this. They really just want to know what's on your payroll. But depending on the lender, they may ask you for some of your past taxes and stuff like that to verify if you're able to afford a loan before the crisis happened. But for the disaster loan that I talked about for state guarantee and this micro loan that I talked about for the state guarantee, you are probably going to have to supply some sort of documentation. And this is what is the most common to collect for a business owner to go talk to a lender. And this is something that the Finance Center can do with you at no cost, as I mentioned, or anybody else in Northern California region, SBDC. We can help you gather all this documentation at no cost. And then we could help you find a lender, essentially package the loan, help you structure the loan, help you talk to lenders, and tell them your story and your loan scenario so that you have better chances of getting approved. All right, so this is the best way for us to communicate with you. This is our phone number. It's 833-ASK-SBDC. That's where you actually get a live person. It's a really cool 800 number program that we just launched, I think like Friday of last week. And we've already got 200 calls over the last days. We prefer you to call the number than email, but you're welcome to email. I'm the one that's answering the emails. In the last 4 days, we've gotten about 150 emails potential, and then we're going to get a bunch more as I'm talking right now. We prefer you to call, but you can also email. You'll get, I'll respond right away, introduce you to one of our finance center advisors. They'll help you sign up as a client, which comes at no cost. And then they'll start helping you with the EIDL, the Triple P, and any other loans that you may need help with. And then also for those of you that speak Spanish and you want to get directed directly to a Spanish-speaking program within NorCal SBDC, we have an affiliate partner called the California Hispanic Chamber, and they're offering Spanish-speaking advisors that can help you with this loan process, also at no cost. And their email is espanol@asksbdc.com. So thank you very much for the time. I'm going to stay on to help out with Q&A. I'm going to leave this slide up so you can have this information, and so that we could go from there. And then now we're going to go into Q&A. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Scott. So I've seen a few emails come in, people confused about Finance Center versus SBDC. Just so that you're all aware, the Finance Center is a specialty SBDC service center that's located out of the Sacramento area and serves all of the NorCal network, which is a 36 county territory from the Oregon border to about an hour past Stockton, all the way over to through Santa Cruz County. So that is the area that we're allowed to provide free services to small businesses in regards to one-on-one consulting and training, in particular during this COVID time. But please make sure that you go to either the email that Scott had provided, or go to norcalsbdc.org to see what is the local service center near you, or put a phone call in and we can walk you through that process. So if you can, please avoid adding new questions. If you can see that your question has already been asked, please upvote other people's questions. Those filter to the top. We're going to get through as many of these as possible. If I don't understand your question, or if we've already answered your question in the Q&A, then I will likely skip that question. Scott, so that you know, you've frozen up a few times. So if we lose you, you could call in the event that happens, but just be aware. I think your internet's spotty today for whatever reason. Okay. Can a sole prop apply for both PPP and for unemployment insurance?
Yes. I mean, the simple answer is yes, you can. I was told on Monday, unless Sunita has different information, that sole proprietor can't apply for unemployment at this time through EDD. And is that still the same thing, Sunita?
I believe they're opening that up in 2 weeks. You may still be able to apply now, but their systems won't be live. As of last night, we got the update for 2 weeks. It may be sooner, but that's what we heard last. So you may want to go online and apply that way. And then with the PPP, of course, you can apply with your lender. And that's it.
Okay. As a sole proprietor with no employees, is there relief money available to me that is forgivable as opposed to a loan?
No, unfortunately not. The triple P is forgivable. I always forget to talk about this. I'm gonna have to change my slides. So Alan, before you send it out, we'll have to, there's a few things I messed up on in my slides that Sunita mentioned, and then also I should put something in there that's forgivable for the triple P. So the triple P is forgivable. There's a reason why I don't, because it depends on the lender and also the way that you process your paperwork as a business owner. Potentially the first 8 weeks of your loan payment with a triple P could be potentially forgiven if 75% or more of the monies that you have spent were spent on payroll. And then the other 25% or less could be spent on rent, utilities, or interest debt payments. But if you were not that diligent with the money that you spent, it would not be forgivable. If, say, you spent 50% on payroll, then only 50% would be forgivable, not 75. So all of it would not be forgivable. As a sole proprietor, the only thing that's forgivable for you is a $1,000 advance that you may qualify for as you apply for the EIDL. Outside of that, the EIDL is not forgivable, and then the triple P I just explained.
Thank you. So Elizabeth says, I have received my PPP funds. Thank you for your help. I'd like a list of specifically what is in compliance: gas, electric, and water, but phones and internet too, ? And do utilities have to be for exactly the period when the loan starts, or can I pay last month's bills too? I'm staying aware of the 25% limit.
It's a really good question about what utilities are covered and what are not. It's very vague in what I've seen written, whether an attorney wrote it or it's the actual law or it's a version of that. I've just been telling people utilities, telephone, light, internet. I'm assuming it could be other utilities, but it's not very clear in what I've been reading, unless Sunita has more to say on that for utilities.
Exactly. So they say utilities, so it's kind of open. And I would look at your tax returns. What do you write off on utilities? That might be your answer. So look back at that. If you normally write off your mobile phone, that's your business phone, then that's probably what's going to be able to be, that monies will be able to be used towards that.
Okay.
And what was the other part of that question?
The other part was, and do the utilities have to be for exactly the period when the loan starts, or can I pay last month's bills too?
So, I mean, I shouldn't probably tell you this, but technically you just do whatever the heck you want to do with the money. But if you want it to be forgiven, then you're going to have to use it for, like what Ann said that you asked in the question, 2575. Can you use it for last month's payments? Well, technically no, because last month's payments are gone unless you didn't pay them. The money is supposed to be used for the 2.5 months after you get the loan. So it's not a backwards loan payment, it's a forward loan payment. So if your utilities are normally $5,000 a month, whether it was last month or this month, then that's what you pay for utilities.
Okay. Can a single member LLC apply for PPP?
Yeah, so any sole proprietor, any entity structure that we went over for sole prop, independent contractor, doesn't matter if you're a single person LLC, single person C Corp, single person S Corp, single person. That's all that's left. Because you can't be a single person, partnership, because that doesn't make sense. So if you're just a single person under any other entity, it doesn't matter. You get to apply. Lucky you. If you're a triple P, you can also apply for a C19, which is a veteran nonprofit organization. Other than that, I haven't heard of any C6s able to apply. But individual person, regardless if you are a single member LLC and you run an Airbnb out of your Tahoe house or your other second house, you qualify.
And then also surrender, yes, there is help with these applications. Please reach out to the SBDC using our phone number or the website that we've provided. We're happy to help you.
Can I remind people, please put your questions in the Q&A. There's a whole bunch of people throwing questions in chat. We're not going to get to those at all. Have a look on the Q&A, see if somebody else has already asked it, upvote it, but don't bother putting it in chat.
Thank you. Okay. Adrian is saying we received 15,000 from EIDL, but apparently new guidance has been released that the cap shouldn't be 15,000. Our 2019 expenses were much higher, so without the cap, we believe we could get more. Should we reapply? And if so, in our application, should there be a note saying we already got 15,000, but believe we need more?
It's a very detailed question. These people are doing a much better job than when we first launched these things like 2 weeks ago. Okay, so if you already applied and you got approved 15 grand, congratulations. If you think you qualify for more, I'd wait till you get the 15 grand and not push your luck. But I'd also, we've been told that by SBA, because sometimes we get bored and we call into the disaster line and we find out all this amazing stuff. Like a lot of these questions you're asking, you can call and wait on line 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, or you can call on a Saturday and Sunday and get right in. But if you think you qualify for more, I would email the person that emailed you, that told you that you're approved or sent you your documentation for you to sign to get the 15 grand, and ask them that question. We've had clients do that, and they've gotten responses. Yeah, it looks like you qualify for another 50 or 60 or 70 or whatever. So that's my advice.
Okay, for those of you who ask questions about seeing the status of your EIDL application, we just don't have any way right now to tell you where you're at. There's not a way for you to track that. Unfortunately, we will just all have to be patient with these, but I'm going to just skip over those questions. Okay, for those people who applied for an EIDL Advance after March 29th and heard nothing, they don't reapply, correct?
Correct. You just need to be patient. After March 29th was only really like 2 weeks ago. If you don't count the weekends, it was like 8 days ago. But yeah, or maybe I added that wrong. Maybe 10 days ago, whatever. It's you gotta wait. You just gotta be patient. Like, I apologize that they're not telling you right away. The cool thing about the Triple P is that the monies are coming from the banks. So they're going to be able to tell you a lot faster than SBA is going to be able to tell you, because SBA is in DC and your bank is like right in front of you when you go talk to them, right? So they can make local decisions instantaneously. SBA can or cannot really do that because of the number of volume that they received. Again, they received as many applications and transactions as they normally do in a year in a day. So they can't process it fast. But the PPP, the lenders can tell you right away what you get approved for.
And Scott, I just wanted everybody to know that if the advance, you're approved for the advance, you may just see it in your business checking account. You may not get confirmation, but it'll just appear there. So also check your business checking accounts, because it can happen that way too. Some of our clients, customers, that has happened too. So just FYI on that, check your accounts.
Okay. Catherine is saying, when applying for grants and loans, do we as owners of the company count as employees?
Say it again?
When applying for grants and loans, do we as owners of the company count as employees? We don't have any other employees, and we personally haven't taken a salary or draw from the company. We're a new company. Our formation documents say we can take a draw, but we haven't yet.
Well, that's a good question. So the first part of the question answer is no. If you don't show you pay yourself and you don't show you take draws, then there's no way for anybody to tell that you actually pay yourself, which you said you don't. So then you can't prove it. But what I would do is I would talk to either your accountant or a CPA, tax person, whatever, bookkeeper, whoever you have. And I would ask them if you've taken a draw, if you haven't already, at the beginning of the year, this year, which, because the triple P, it has to be before February 15th of 2020 for you to show that you pay yourself. I know that we're in April, but I'm also not a tax accountant or CPA, so I can't really give you advice on how you should or should not do that. But if you have no track record of it, then yes, there's no way they can tell that you actually pay yourself. But if it could be possibly something that you can do retroactively, because we're still in the year 2020, and you can possibly show you did some stuff between January and February, then that's between you and your tax account.
And for the disaster advance, you would be considered one person. So you would put employees, it would be one. So for the disaster advance through SBA.
So for the PPP, you don't get to apply if you don't have employees. For
No, you do.
Or sorry, if you don't pay yourself.
No, okay. So triple P. So what confuses everyone is it's really about payroll. That's why they launched it, is payroll. So you can hire people back if you fired them, so that they can get paid and get off unemployment. And it's this big circle of trying to get people off of unemployment. It's a great idea, but when they rolled it out, you can actually use it for rent, utilities, which we just talked about, all the utilities that you could possibly use it for, and then any interest debt payments. So you can't use it to pay off debt, but you could use it to make your debt payment. So if you have like a fintech loan or a vehicle loan or a car loan or whatever type of loan, equipment loan, you could pay your monthly debt payments with it. Just if you use over 25% of the monies in the first 8 weeks outside of payroll, then it's not going to be forgiven. That's what it is. You can use the PPP for other stuff outside of payroll. It's just not going to be forgiven potentially as much as it would if you use it for payroll. So if you're a sole proprietor and you don't pay yourself, like this question that we just had, then you can't apply for the triple P for payroll. But you can apply for rent, utilities, and interest debt payments if you really want to. Or you can just apply for the EIDL, because the EIDL pays for everything. It pays for payroll, rent, utilities, miscellaneous, advertisement, professional fees, anything that it takes to run and operate your business, working capital. It pays for everything. It's just not forgivable. The triple P is only forgivable if you follow those percentages of 75-25, 75% payroll and 25% everything else.
So E is asking if he's saying that it hasn't been answered already. We'd like to know how 1099 contractors work under the PPP.
All right, so here you go. We know it's confusing, but please listen to what I'm saying. A 1099 contractor is also a person that is sole proprietor, that is also the same person that is self-employed. So if you're self-employed and you don't pay yourself personally, or you get a 1099 contract from whatever you do as a gigger or a side hustle, like you sell real estate, or you do Uber, you do Lyft, you do Airbnb, you do hair on the side, I don't know what you do. But if you receive a 1099, you are the same person as a sole proprietor or a self-employed or a single member LLC or a single member C Corp if you don't pay yourself on as a W-2. It's the same thing. Here's the answer. You're all approved to apply for whatever you want, the triple P and the EIDL, regardless if you're a 1099, a sole proprietor, or self-employed. It's the same thing. And yes, please apply. Get off this webinar as soon as you can and apply.
Okay. The EIDL $10,000 advance has changed to $1,000 per employee, correct? Was the question? Yes, that is correct. Let's see, David is saying we have a tour business that's less than 2 years old and the only employees are the two owners. We just began to profit and then we were shut down. What are we eligible for? I think Scott just answered that by telling everybody to apply for the PPP and the EIDL. Any other bits of info you would offer there, Scott?
No, so it's very confusing. I get it. And I know that I keep repeating myself. I get a little crazy, a little excited, a little passionate. But if you have not paid yourself, regardless of when you started your business, if you started it 5 years ago and you spent a bunch of money on R&D, research and development, you still haven't made any money. So the PPP doesn't care if you've made any money, and the EIDL doesn't care if you've made any money. There's no disqualifiers per se for either loan. It's just with the triple P, if you've never paid yourself, you're not going to be able to get that forgiven because it can't verify. The EIDL is not forgiven, so just apply for the EIDL because it pays for everything. So yeah, so to answer that question, if you can verify it, great, then you can qualify for the triple P for payroll. If you can't verify it, then not great. You need to apply for the EIDL or apply for the PPP, but don't apply for payroll. Like it's kind of confusing. I get it, back and forth. But if you, I don't know, I forget what I was going to say in addition to that. But Sunita, did I answer that question based on the question that was asked?
Yes, you did.
Oh, goody. All right.
Okay. Guys, for those of you who ask questions about unemployment, we're not unemployment experts. So I'm going to say that we're not going to filter those through these questions. Please talk to us about specific questions for EIDL and PPP. That's what we can answer here. Otilla is saying, or Otilia, my husband is the owner of a sole proprietorship. He has no employees. I'm a professional contractor. Last year, I fulfilled all contracts under his business, and we filled our taxes out jointly. What is my status? Employee for my husband, self-employed, or independent contractor?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I know that there's like 100 different ways that you guys can ask these questions, and we kind of appreciate it. I just have to laugh sometimes, so I apologize. I'm not laughing at you, kind of laughing at the whole situation. So if your husband doesn't pay you a paycheck through like an 80 pay or paychecks, then you're technically not an employee. An employee is somebody that gets a W-2, a paycheck, or something like that. A 1099 person is somebody that gets a 1099. So if you're husband and wife, it does get confusing because you file it jointly. You probably file a Schedule C jointly, regardless if your husband or spouse owns 100% of the company. You know, we're in California, so like everybody's all combined regardless because you're married and you file joint taxes and all this other stuff. So that is a tricky question to directly answer. But the answer is you're not an employee unless he pays you on a payroll check, and you're not a 1099 unless you actually receive 1099s in your name. If the business that your husband runs actually receives the 1099s, then the business is the one that could actually apply. So you yourself would not be a 1099 unless the 1099 is in your name. That should answer your question.
Okay. During the last Zoom Q&A, the presenters seemed to indicate that it was important to rehire once the loan was approved rather than by a certain date. I just want to confirm this. If we aren't open, is it okay to just pay everyone to stay home?
Yeah, so technically that's what you're supposed to do, which I know doesn't make any sense, but you know, a lot of the never mind. So before we were telling people that you have to rehire them before you apply, and then we got new information that says you don't need to do that because obviously that doesn't make sense. So you need to apply for the loan, and then once you get the loan, then you're supposed to hire. We've been told you're supposed to hire everyone back at the same status that you had them at, whether they're part-time or full-time. And if you do that, then you have the biggest chance of the money being forgiven in the first 8 weeks. There is no specific time frame per se, but once you get approved, you're supposed to hire them back. So I don't recommend you to hire them back before. If you are a restaurant or some other place of business that is shut down, then yes, you are technically supposed to pay them for them to sit at home because you can't have them do other stuff because you're not open. So.
Okay. Elizabeth, the other part of that question, was confusing to me, so I am going to skip over that. If we end up using part of the PPP on something that isn't listed as the intended purpose, for instance, we end up paying some principal as well as interest or have to pay a vendor, then does the entire PPP loan become unforgivable, or just the amount we ended up paying or using for the non-interest payment?
So it's a great question to ask your lender that you applied at, since they're the ones that are giving you the money. Excuse me. And then also, it wouldn't negate, like it wouldn't throw everything out that you wouldn't be able to have anything forgiven. Just anything that's under 75% spent on payroll, then that's the part that could be potentially forgiven. So if you only spend 50% of the money on payroll or 25% of the money on payroll, then that's the only portion that we are being told that would be forgiven.
Okay, this one is less of a question, but just an update for those people who are finding themselves in this boat. Mary Beth Hall is saying our EIDL status update applied on March 23rd. March 26th got a confirmation the app was received. And then in review with a number 2 application number. And then our credit was checked, 331 reapplied, including applying for the $10,000 advance on the new portal, and got a 3 application number, 414. So we got a $4,000 deposit for the advance. We have 4 employees. 415, we got an EIDL loan approval. So congratulations. That's fantastic, Mary Beth. She says the website, however, is having issues. We still haven't been able to complete the process yet, but don't give up. There's hope. So that's awesome to hear. That's great. Thank you. We have a lot of those stories. Honestly, we've heard a lot of them. So that's why we keep encouraging people to apply, despite all of the craziness that we've been put through in terms of changing information back and forth. We've got about 7 or 8 minutes left. I'm going to get through as many of these questions as I can. Jenna says, and Sunita, I'll direct this to you. Jenna says, I got a form back about the EIDL saying it's now 1,000 per employee. I'm a sole proprietor. I wrote 0 under employees. Should I redo the app to say 1 employee for myself?
Yes.
Great. Let's see. I'm going to scroll down here. I'm a sole proprietor LLC and the only employee, though I do have 5 1099 contractors. Am I eligible for the EIDL advance for my fixed costs such as rent and utilities? I do not want to go into debt with a loan, but the advance would help me get through this.
So you can't count your 1099 contractors as employees for the EIDL advance. Is that true, Sonia? Or we haven't been actually told that yet, huh?
I know you can't for the triple P, so I am assuming that is the same for the advance.
But for the advance, 1 employee counts, or the owner counts. So she could apply for the 1,000.
That is correct. And the reason why your 1099 person wouldn't count is because they can also apply for these loans.
Great. Okay, here's another PPP question for you, Scott. I know you'll love it. PPP, am I eligible to apply for PPP as a sole proprietor if last year's income was 0 on the 1099, but I had expenses?
I can take that one.
Yeah, maybe you could take that.
You can take it. You can take it.
Perfect. So they're going to look at your Schedule C, and they're going to look to see how much net income was produced. They're looking at your net income for any Schedule C person. So that means that's how you filed your taxes on the Schedule C. That is for 2019. If you have not filed that yet, they're going to request you put it on a Schedule C when you provide the information to your lender. And if it says 0, then there is no income to be able to lend to you because it was 0. So 0 times 2.5 is 0. And I know that's unfortunate, but that's how they're looking at it.
But since the Triple P declaration date is February 15th, you technically could have paid yourself from January 1st of this year to February 15th of this year. And if there is verification of that, you may actually qualify. But you should reach out to us so that we can help you figure that out.
Alfonso is saying that Wells Fargo sends emails letting him know he can't submit his PPP application on their platform yet. They're directing me to other lenders, but other banks want me to have their credit card. I feel stuck. What should I do?
Well, if you're still on the phone call, you should just look at this website, this PowerPoint slide right here. There are banks that are not accepting, that are accepting non-customers that don't need you to open a credit card. All these banks on here are, except for Centerstone Lending, they're not a bank per se, so they can't actually ask you to bank with them. The other ones may or may not ask you to bank with them after they help you with the Triple P, because they're trying to get deposits, which is a common thing for a bank. Lendistry.com is a nonprofit SBA 7A lender, so they can't even take deposits. So I'd recommend to go there, since they don't even have credit cards. So yeah, Wells Fargo may not be giving you all the options because number one, they don't know, and number one, they probably don't care. But yeah, so just go here, email us if you have questions, or call one of our live persons here and they can help you.
Okay. Aaliyah is asking about what are the steps after applying for EIDL. I've received from them an acknowledgement, but nothing else to date. What can she be doing, Scott, to be ahead of the curve for kind of the next steps?
Sunita, can you answer that? Sorry. Or
Sure.
Can you read?
Sure. You can fill out the documents that we have placed on one of the previous slides to get ahead of the curve. We don't know if they're going to ask you specifically for those documents, but that's the way to stay ahead of the curve, is to make sure that as soon as you do receive an email stating if they need additional information, that you are ready to provide that to them. You can get assistance with completing those documents and receipt of those documents through one of our advisors. And I would ask you, if you're not already a client, to please sign up to become a client so that we can help you through that process.
Okay. So Calvin is saying, I've read that I can use the grant money from the PPP to pay for not just my employees, but also rent and utilities. However, the amount I am able to get from the grant is only 2.5 times the amount of my payroll, which will only cover the payroll for my employees. How can I get enough to pay for my rent? Am I able to add that amount to borrow the amount on the application?
So the PPP is not a grant. Stop calling it a grant. It's a loan. It may be forgiven if you spend the right money appropriately, like they say you supposed to in the next 8 weeks once you get the loan. The word is forgiven. It's not a grant. It's a loan. Also, if you don't have enough, if you take 2.5 times and that's all payroll, and you don't have enough money in the Triple P to pay for the rent, utilities, and interest payments, then I recommend that you also apply for the EIDL loan. It's just not forgiven. But I recommend that. That's the only way to take advantage of both situations and take advantage of what you're trying to do for the full max.
Okay. We are out of time today, guys. I really appreciate the questions. I do encourage you to continue to join us once Once every other day, we're doing this Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10:30 to 11:30. Additionally, we have this a similar Ask SBDC webinar in Spanish on Thursdays from 10:30 to 11:30. So go to our website for more information on those. If you have additional questions we didn't get to today, I encourage you to call the 833 Ask SBDC or send an email to Scott because he loves answering those at loans@asksbdc.com. But also, if you want individualized assistance, I do encourage you all to consider reaching out to your local small business development center by going to our website, norcalsbdc.org, and applying there for service. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great rest of your day.
And if you missed the beginning of this presentation, it's streaming on YouTube. I've just put the link there. You should be able to pick it up from there.
Wonderful. Have a great day, guys. We'll see you on Friday.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.